Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor has been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office.
The fall from grace, it appears, is complete. The notorious Playboy younger brother of King Charles spent 11 hours in police custody on Friday.
It follows revelations about his ties to the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
The news of his arrest echoed around the world, aided by a remarkable photo of him slumped in the back seat while leaving the cop shop.
Start with breaking news about Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. The BBC understands that he has been arrested.
Now known as Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, he was taken into custody in Norfolk just a short while ago.
With searches being carried out at multiple properties.
This occurs on the day of his 66th birthday and follows, of course, months of intense questioning regarding those links with the convicted paedophile, the late paedophile Jeffrey Epstein.
If he's found guilty, then he could face life in prison.
Andrew has consistently and strenuously denied any wrongdoing relating to the Epstein files.
But then again, this is a man who hasn't got any taste or moral compass at all, to be perfectly honest.
So what now for Andrew and the monarchy? Will it? Can it survive? Hi, I'm Amanda Gillies, and today on The Detail, I talked to former Press Secretary to the Queen and King Charles, Dickie Arbiter, about the arrest, the response, the fallout, and why Andrew has been targeted, while other alleged high-profile offenders continue to live large. Plus, what about Andrew's ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson? How involved was she?
How involved? Up to her armpits, quite frankly.
And what happens to Andrew's daughters?
They are the daughters of two very unsavoury people.
Dickie doesn't hold back. But first he talks about just how rare and scandalous the arrest of Andrew is.
It is very unusual. The last time a royal was taken into custody was about 1647 when Charles I was arrested. And then he had his head chopped off 2 years later. So it is extremely rare. Royals have been fined. Princess Anne was fined, I think it was in 2002. Her dog bit some children. She was fined £500, £250 expenses. She had a traffic fine for speeding. Zara's been speeding. So, the minor infringements of the law are fairly common, but something like this is not.
How has Andrew responded to this? Has he shown any remorse, or has he sort of been an arrogant, ignorant response that he has sort of done in the past?
Well, he hasn't responded at all. The only sight that anybody got of him was a snatch photograph of him in the back of a Land Rover. I think it's open to interpretation. My interpretation is he looked shell-shocked that anything like that could have happened. But no, nobody's seen him. There's been no sight of him except that return journey from the police station back to Wood Farm on the Sandringham estate.
Remarkable photo that was. King Charles, he has responded though, Dickie, and said that the police and the law will have his full cooperation, and he put that out immediately.
King Charles says he's learned with the deepest concern the news about Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor and suspicion of misconduct in public office. He says that the royal family will fully and wholeheartedly support and cooperate with police, and the law must take its course.
How has this been interpreted and sort of accepted by those in England?
Well, it's been accepted, and when you look at the wording of it, he put it out as king, head of state, not as a brother, because he referenced his brother in the first line and second line to Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor and suspicion of misconduct in public duty. So he's put it out as head of state. His intention is the preservation of the monarchy, and if a family have to be sacrificed, then so be it. But there's clearly some misdeed there. Otherwise, the police wouldn't have arrested him for questioning. What is quite interesting is that it was a little over a week ago that the Thames Valley Police Force said they were going to be assessing whether there is anything to arrest him on and charge him on. Less than a week later, they arrested him and kept him in for 11 hours while they were questioning him. How they questioned him, we don't know. What they questioned him on, we don't know. Presumably it was on this whole business of misconduct in public duty, public office. So there's very little we do know and very little we are going to know, because at the moment, while the police are investigating, they're not releasing any information whatsoever.
Talk us through exactly what the claims or accusations are.
Well, when he came out of the Navy in 2001, a job had to be found for him, and he was given the job of Trade Ambassador International, part of the Department of Trade and Industry, a job that had been done for more than 20 years by the Duke of Kent when it was called the British Overseas Trade Board. And he did it for those 20 years without an inch of scandal attached to it at all. And he did an extremely good job. Andrew seemed to have gone off the rails. He's sort of being the man that he is, or was, arrogant, bombastic, rude, you name it, he's it. Took advantage of the whole scenario, and he travelled globally, a lot of it on behalf of the British government, to ostensibly sell British trade abroad. How much and how successful he was is still being asked. And he was taking advantage, and he was meeting all sorts of dodgy people. And within that sort of meeting of dodgy people, somewhere along the line, sort of nearer 2010, between 2008 and 2010, he was actually handing over, they're calling them sensitive, they're calling them secret. I would prefer to use the word confidential without knowing the full extent of the documents, but documents for his eyes and nobody else's eyes, and they're certainly not Jeffrey Epstein's eyes. So that is part of the whole concept of misconduct in public office. What is quite interesting is that he's being hauled across the coals, and Peter Mandelson, who's also been accused of misconduct in public office, seems to be lying low at the moment, and nothing is going on there except police taking away boxes of paperwork over a week ago. So it looks like Andrew is the one that's being nailed at the moment. But I think there's a general feeling in the UK, the sooner that Mandelson gets nailed, the better.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about that, Dickie, because I was reading a lot of commentary over the weekend saying that there are plenty of presidents and celebrities and CEOs and Mandelson politicians who have been involved, but it seems Andrew is the only one sort of being targeted. He's been stripped of his titles, his sort of standing in community, his home, so publicly arrested. Do you think that is fair?
Well, I mean, a sympathetic person would say, no, it's not fair. It's all come about out of the release of 3.5 million documents from the Department of Justice in the United States. What is quite interesting, they're hanging on to another 2.5 million that have got a lot of names on them, a lot of American names on them. There have been innuendos about which names are there. Certainly the Clintons are on it, and they are taking the bold step of being questioned by Congress this coming week. They've obviously cut a deal that whatever they say will not be used against them. So they're the only ones that have come forward so far. But there are, and it is alleged, I have to use that word very carefully, that there are a lot of very high-profile people on the second tranche of documents, which at the moment, there is no sign of them being released.
Be very nervous people. Do you think, though, that it means that sort of perhaps England is taking a tougher stance than, say, the States, that this is a good thing that England is being so tough?
Well, it is taking a tougher stance, and the fingers being pointed at it from across the pond, from across the United States, presumably to take the heat off them. There's no question, there's no suggestion that he's been involved in any wrongdoing. But President Trump appears on the list quite frequently. I think there was a lot of numbers suggested of how many times he does appear in those documents. But at the moment, it's all sort of hinged on what's happening over here, and what's happening over the other side is being shoved under the carpet, or so it would seem.
Careful wording from Dickie there, but there is actually suggestion of Trump's wrongdoing, despite what the US president says.
I have nothing to hide. I've been exonerated. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. They went in hoping that they'd find it and found just the opposite. I've been totally exonerated.
I'll just leave it to what the president said and have you respond. Do you feel that based on what you've seen in the files, unredacted and the redacted ones that came out publicly, that the president has been totally exonerated?
I know this will shock your viewers this morning, but Donald Trump is lying when he says he's totally exonerated. It's the opposite. Every time we get more information, either through the Oversight Committee's subpoena or the files that have been released publicly or the redacted files that members of Congress have viewed, Trump's relationship with Epstein appears longer and deeper.
What happens now to Andrew? Is he just going to be left alone? Do we know what the next step is going to be?
Well, we don't know what the next step. The police are still investigating. They release him on the basis that they are still investigating, so he can't go anywhere. Not that he will go anywhere. He's keeping a very, very low profile. I mean, he's only been out since Thursday evening. So it's unlikely that he will be seen. He won't show his face, but they are investigating. There's a lot of documents to go through, and they're going to be going through it forensically. Meanwhile, there are other police forces in the UK investigating the whole issue of trafficking women for sex and the use of Epstein's aircraft landing at RAF bases, civil airports. Stansted is one of them. An RAF airbase was named, but the RAF say it's fairly common practice for civilian aircraft to land, provided they pay the proper fees. So in terms of Epstein landing a plane at an RAF base, nothing wrong there.
Nothing to see here.
It is very interesting how this whole thing is unfolding. And we've only touched the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more going to come out.
And there are calls, because of what has happened, for Andrew to be removed from the line of succession. I think he's 8th in line at the moment. Do you think that will happen?
Well, it will happen. The government has certainly said that they will find time to debate it in Parliament. But what people don't realise is that the King is head of state of, in total, 15 realms, of which Australia is one of them. And it requires every realm, the other 14 other than the UK, which is the 15th, to agree to him being stripped. I don't think it will be difficult. It'll go through in a nod and a wink. But it does take time. Parliaments in the 15 realm states, they do have more important business. But this is an important issue, and they do need to get a grip of it. What is quite interesting is that later in the year, sometime around about October, there will be the biennial Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in the West Indies, where all the heads of government will be assembling for their every 2-year conference. And if nothing is sorted before then, I can't see why it won't be raised there, because you've got all the leaders there and a nod and a wink and a raise of hands, and Andrew is removed in one fell swoop. But, that is my own opinion, but it does depend on 15 parliaments, 15 governments.
Remarkable fall from grace, Dickie. Just how damaging is this for the royal family? I mean, can they survive this?
Well, there are two issues here, aren't there? You say for the royal family, they are a family and one of their own is a rotten apple. It doesn't mean to say that the whole basket is rotten. Does it affect the institution of monarchy? That is Charles's primary concern, which is why when he put out the statement, he talked about full cooperation with the police, true letter of the law. He referred to Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor and not his brother. So his concern is the preservation and the protection of the monarchy as an institution. The monarchy will survive as an institution. The family have taken a knock, but by the same token, the family are not hiding. When Andrew was arrested, the Queen had an engagement at St John Smith Hall, which was, I believe, was a charity concert. The King was opening London Fashion Week in the afternoon, and the Princess Royal was up in Leeds at a prison because she's patron of an organisation that looks into the whole welfare of prison reform. So they were out and about on the road as normal. Nothing was going to stop them. That's their duty. And that's what King meant, closing off his statement. Meanwhile, my family and I will continue in our duty and service to you all. So monarchy goes on. And monarchy will go on, and the monarchy will survive. There are a lot of people calling for more transparency. Well, the monarchy is a lot more transparent today than it was, say, 20 years ago or even 50 years ago. So the monarchy is learning, like everybody else learns from these issues, and they are becoming more transparent. The media are looking for things to develop the story, because at the end of the day, it's all about filling pages and selling newspapers. And here we are talking about it on your podcast. So in answer to your question, the family has been dented, but the family is carrying on. and the monarchy has taken a knock, and the monarchy will carry on, and the monarchy will survive.
Do you know who we haven't really seen from is Sarah Ferguson. Apparently she's holed up in a $26,000 a night wellness centre. I mean, how involved is she in all of this, and what will happen to her?
How involved? Up to her armpits, quite frankly.
Wow.
I mean, she's the one that was taking money all the time. On the one hand, she was castigating Epstein, and the next moment, she was apologising to him and asking for money, asking to marry him, asking to be his house assistant. You name it, she was asking for it. Yes, she is holed up somewhere, and I think most people would say, stay there, don't come back.
What about the daughters, Beatrice and Eugenie? Forgive me if I've got the pronunciation of that wrong. How muddy are their hands? Are they involved? Because they seem to be having dinners with Epstein and sort of courting this sort of lifestyle as well.
Well, they were taken for lunch to Florida by their mother to have lunch with Epstein. They were in their early 20s. They are the daughters of two very unsavoury people, and they are lying low as well. Eugenie is in Doha for her company she works for, which was an art company. It is very difficult for them. It is probably more so difficult for their respective husbands who are in business and get tarred by the same brush. Beatrice and Eugenie, I think the best advice they could take, and I've said this on a number of occasions, is to keep a low profile, keep a very low profile. They've had a very easy life. And I'm surprised they never asked themselves, where did all this money come from for such an easy life? It's obvious where it came from, but they never questioned it. Beatrice was marginally involved on the fringes with Andrew's Newsnight interview in 2019. She encouraged him to do it, which was a great mistake.
One of Epstein's accusers, Virginia Roberts, has made allegations against you. Your response?
I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady.
She described dancing with you and you profusely sweating, and that she went on to have bath, possibly.
There's a slight problem with the sweating because I have a peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat.
But then that's where it all started, didn't it? Yes, his association with Epstein, but his Newsnight interview where he was being very stupid and very arrogant.
Probably understatement of the year there, Dickie. It was remarkable. I have seen calls, though, for them to be stripped of their titles as princess. Likely or not really?
Well, there have been calls. It's really, where did the calls come from? They are born princesses. They haven't actually done anything wrong, but there was a suggestion at one stage, and certainly not from the royal family and the king, that they might be called upon to fill the gaps with the royal firm, because they are quite lean with just 7 members covering the globe. But that will never happen. And if there was any thought it was going to happen a few months ago, it certainly won't happen now. So the best they can do, as I said a moment ago, is keep the heads below the parapet and do a sensible job of work without being seen to go on holiday all the time. They're both married. They both have children. They both have husbands. I'm going to get shot down for saying this, but stay at home, look after the babies, send the husband out to work.
I won't comment on that one, Dickie. William, is it
but
time...
you're not in that position.
This is true. Is it time for William to step up, for King Charles to step aside and to put William in as king and start that next chapter sooner rather than later?
Monarchy doesn't work like that. Yes, we had an abdication in 1936. That was a very weak man who spent most of his adult life in the company of other men's wives, finally marrying then a twice divorced woman, never lived happily ever after, and his brother took over. No, abdication is a dirty word. Charles has waited 70 years for this job. He is doing a very good job. Forget about what's happening on the family front. He personally, with support from Camilla, is doing an incredibly good job. People like him. His ratings are high. in terms of the institution of monarchy, which have plummeted a little bit, about 48%, but his personal ratings are about 62%. So he is popular. He is doing a very good job, and it would be wrong for anybody to suggest that he steps aside. William would be the last one to ever suggest stepping aside. His time will come. Meanwhile, he is doing a good job, and he is learning the ropes. He's still got a lot to learn, and his time will come. I say, because the king has cancer, later rather than sooner, because you cannot tell with having cancer whether it will return or not, and if it does return, how it will return and what effect it will have. So I say for William, later rather than sooner, and for the king to carry on in what he's doing now and steering the monarchy in the right direction.
I just want to know mental health. How worried are people for the mental health of Andrew, for the mental health of the daughters, and even for Sarah? Is there things in place for that at all?
Well, I don't think anybody's giving Sarah much of a thought. But in terms of Andrew, I don't think they're thinking about him either. It is a question that should be raised. I think what friends he has got left have allegedly said that, yes, he is mentally, he's a broken man. But nobody's actually seen him, nobody's actually heard him. And this is just coming from people who are on his side. There aren't many of them, but there are a few. Mental health is an issue, but mental health is also overcome with strength of character, that you press on regardless. And the two daughters, Beatrice and Eugenie, their priority has to be for their children and their husband, as well as their own well-being. Their father has done wrong, their mother has done wrong. They are their parents, but they are parents too, and their priority is to their children. So any idea that they're going to claim mental health issues, they might well do, but they've got to, up to a point, they've got to help themselves as well as helping their children and their husband. The husbands must be going through a dreadful phase at the moment, because they have businesses, they are providing for the daughters and for their children. And one has already said that he has lost work as a result of what has happened by mere association, rather than being anything else but. So it is a difficult time for everybody within the family, more so for the one-time York family. But what the future holds, only time will tell.
What do you think the late Queen would have made of all this?
The late Queen would have been devastated. There are those who are saying, well, she probably knew more than she let on. You've got to remember, at the time of the Newsnight interview, she was 93. She was in the twilight of her years. What she didn't need was trouble on the home front, on the family front. She tended to, when it came to the family, if they did wrong, to bury her head in the sand and not admonish them. And I've said it myself, that when she passed in September 2022, she left a bit of a ticking time bomb for her son, Charles, to pick up the threads on Andrew. He's picked up those threads. There's nothing more he can do because it's now in police hands. But to go back to your question, she would have been devastated. And the last thing she needed in her twilight years, this is why nothing was done at the time, she basically fired him from being a working royal, and she removed his military associations and his patronages. But she didn't go far enough, because at that age, you've really had enough, and you just don't want any further hassle. So all I can say is that she did what she did, and for the dear lady to rest in peace.
That's it for today. The Detail is a newsroom production supported by RNZ and New Zealand On Air. Thank you to Dickie Arbiter. This episode was produced by Gwen McClure and engineered by Rangi Powick. I'm Amanda Gillies. Mā te wā.